let's start. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, Mohammed, I can see your screen.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so just to give a quick introduction for people that just joining for the first time, and I promise it will not take a long time as usual. So a quick introduction about myself. My name is Mohammed Radwan. I am a Microsoft MVP and Principal Cloud DevOps Consultant, and I have been doing in the industry for more than 17 years. I started back in 2002 with classic ASP developer, then moved to or used to different tools and technologies and relocated for several countries eventually in the UK, London based. And for the last 8 years, I focused on consultancy based role where I helped more than 50 companies all over the globe, some of them from the Fortune 500. As a part of the community, so I have many publication, either automation framework or command line tools or papers, which is published on Azure and Marketplace and GitHub. I like to share my experience. This is why the YouTube and blog, you will find many information for that. Also, I presented many sessions and many conferences, regional and international as well. So I got the chance and the opportunity to work in different countries and get different culture experience as well. Okay, so code of conduct, I will not spend the time to talk about code of conduct, but again, that is very important, and I can't start with that. So all the session is recorded. So if you don't like to be recorded, please leave the session now. Also, mic is off all the time, and you just open the mic when you want to speak. For the rest of the code of conduct, I will suggest, and this is very important, that you read all the code of conduct and the fact frequently asked question before joining or before asking about the contribution. Okay, what is DevOps vision? I thought like let's put a vision about what DevOps vision. So DevOps vision is an open source initiative that aims to help people over the world to learn DevOps and cloud. So the main goals was to provide different, services or different, guidance. Like for example, live stream session as today. Also mentoring people, like helping them to improve their career paths, they can develop, either finding the job or maybe even develop uh, their job in their current company or their current job. Also working on open source project and studying groups and also finding jobs, because again it's a place that you can show yourself for all the communities. Again, before asking any questions outside of this session, or regarding, for example, the contribution or offer your help, you need to go for the prerequisite. Again, I keep receive all the time the same question in private, asking the same question again. So the prerequisites that you just need to read the code of conduct and the FAQ, which is now they are merged and on GitHub. Also, if your question related to technical question, just to go for my YouTube channel, search for this topic and watch the video and prepare your question first. If your question regarding to the open source project, just go for the open source, download it in your machine, try to run the unit testing, try to run the automation UI testing, try to work with that before asking any question. So again, your support is really appreciated. Why like, share, comment, and fill the survey. Okay, this is the DevOps link. So the domain is redirected to the GitHub, and we're still using the old Facebook page. What is Easy App? Just for people, the Easy App is just a very small application, but the main idea is just we will go using different technologies, platform, tools, so we can understand, for people that attending my first session, talking about the DevOps, what is the DevOps engineer is, and when I talk about that, you should have different skills in all the software development lifecycle. So Easy App is a way that you can learn, develop, code, build, test, package, release, configuration, and monitor. The project is published on GitHub. And again, we will go using this application, we will go through all the life cycle, including the plan with all activities, including the development, writing unit testing, version control, branch and merge, versioning the application, semantic versioning, having a load testing, staging, and all the complete life cycle, even the monitor and the feedback. So again, remember Easy App on GitHub. Um, Okay, open source inspiration stories. Just to remember to, I thought like, let's talk about some of the inspiration story. WordPress started in 2003 with a single bit of code, with fewer users than you can count on your fingers, and now growing to be the largest self-hosted blogging tool with million of sites and million of people. And this is exactly what I hope. Again, everything can start very small, but with contributor, with people, they can be really very large. Now you can understand the vision about DevOps vision. It's just again giving learning. It's all about learning latest and keeping learning by doing. Okay, if you like to learn by doing, again, come and join us on the project. Again, we are looking to build more community champions, and we are try to help you to to open the door for you so you can achieve that. Number of survey, now we reached 700 register from more than 40 countries. I stopped to count or increase this number. The importance of community and networking, again, it's very important to have this network. And again, I'm trying to get benefits of having our sessions and gathering. It is not just by having session, but also to have sharing different experience, like job recommendation and many others. So, and this is exactly what I'm trying to do to get benefit of our gathering. This is why it's better if we can keep connected. And again, the main idea now is Facebook, and also GitHub is the main point. We divided to two groups, but we will divide it also later, re-evaluate the groups, and then maybe divide it later to some other groups. There is also some exam voucher and Azure subscription. It can be, for people that contribute or solving quiz or answer quizzes and so on. So upcoming session alert, there is a repeated session about Kubernetes or AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service. So this will be repeated in May 30. And there is also another session talking about the open source project and taking some question. This will be in 6th of June. Okay, your support really appreciated. So let's start off our session today. Okay, so our agenda today, I'm going to give a quick overview about continuous delivery principle and practices, then talking about the difference between CI and CD, in details. Then what is the stages between build and deployment, the full stage stack, and then promote to environment. And we will take an overview about the end-to-end workflow, then go for the demo. Then I will show you some tips and the tricks. And then also I will show you some of the real stories about working in real projects. Okay, one of the best book I have read about continuous delivery in the market, of course, this book, which has a very important, it has many things, but the most important part of this book is the 8 principles and 4 practices of the continuous delivery. I'm not going to cover all the 8 principles because I will need literally with every principle. Can you please mute yourself? Ahmed Higazi, can you please mute yourself, Ahmed?
Okay.
I muted you. So I will again spend literally a very long time, need hours or maybe days to speak about or to cover every principle. And today again, I'm just talking about one principle. Even I will not cover everything about this principle, which is keep everything in source control. And I will also talk about one practices, which is build binaries once. So to just give you an overview before we move from this slide, keep everything under source control. Everything should be under source control. And you don't know how this principle is changing everything we do in the continuous delivery and in the DevOps. The same here also for build binary once and deploy multiples. You are not every time you want to deploy application, you just not going and build the application, then deploying, build and deploy. It is not working like that. You should only build once. and deploy to multiple times. Promote your package from one environment to other, but again, it is the same package, the same binaries. Anyway, so to keep everything in source control, this is why we have now, by this principle, one of the result of this principle is infrastructure as code, also configuration as code, and then documentation as code using the markdown as well, and pipeline as code, which is our session today. Again, there is many ways even talking about everything under source control, and again we can spend all the whole day talking about that. Build the binary ones, again, this is lead to have the packaging of the application. This is why we're storing the package on NuGet package, we're storing the package in npm node package management, we're storing package in Azure Artifacts, for example, or using Nexus or Artifactory, or storing Docker image in container registry or Azure container registry, for example, and many, many others. The main idea here, again, you are not build and deploy. You are build, store, deploy. And this is not build, store, deploy. No, you build once, store once, and deploy multiple. It's very important principles. Okay, so let's review what is the tasks in the continuous integration tasks. So again, compile.
Sorry, Muhammad. Could you tell us the name of the book again? Sorry for interrupting. 8 Principles of Continuous
No,
Delivery.
the eighth principle is part of the book. The book is called Continuous Delivery by Jess
Okay.
Hummel and David Furley. Part of
Okay.
the book is the 8 principles and 4 practices.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. So yeah, so if we get back to the build task, so what should be part of the CI? Because again, from the experience, I have many, confusion. I have seen many confusion about that. For example, one of the project I worked with the client, and he just say like, I want to run the automated UI testing as a part of the CI. Okay, but this is not, it is not. No, 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 no. It's fine for me. Again, in some cases, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. It is not about automation. And okay, because I can do it, then you can just do it. There is principles and the practices behind behind using the technology. And if you don't understand the principle and the practices very well, it will not help you that you automate that. So anyway, so the build task is the first is the compiling your application. Bundle and minification, for example, if you're working with JavaScript or CSS, the main idea is transforming from one form to another form. Versioning the application, you want to put what is the version of this application, and you tag even your application with this version, run the unit test, and usually the unit testing in memory test, which means that this is running very quickly. Also calculate the code coverage, for example, for unit tests, so you can understand the quality and the health of your unit testing and the coverage. Run code analysis or static analysis, either SonarQube or Sonar Cloud or whatever, what is they using, or maybe even other with other technology or tools. Measure the technical debt and code smells, so you can understand, what it need to be, like need to be the future work. Calculate and run the code metrics. I guess something like cyclomatic metric or depth of an inheritance, or like for example, tightly coupled, all this kind of metrics about the code quality. Create code documentation as well. You can create the code documentation as a part of the CI. And package the artifact. Again, this is very important. You not build, deploy, you build, package, and store. So building the package is very important. Like you package what you build, and then of course store the package in the repository. So the last step, as you can see, usually in the CI is storing the package, because now you finish the build, and then you are going to store the package. And again, remember, to just give you a quick idea, what inside the CI, it's all about the tasks that just take seconds and minutes. If your task will not going to run within few minutes, then probably this, the best candidate, it is not the CI, maybe the CD or maybe nightly build. Okay, going for the release tasks, it's completely different. The first one is spin and provision the new environment. You start preparing the environment and then configuring the environment for the desired state. Now you create the environment, then let's change the state of the environment for your desired state configuration. And then deploy your application to the environment. You pick the application from the storage area and then start deploying that. And then install the package on the environment. You install the package on this environment, configure the package on the environment, create testing data, run integration and acceptance testing, AUI testing, all this kind of system integration test, roll back to previous version if needed, promote deployment to next environment, again, build once, deploy multiple. Move database from production to pre-production, for example, after, of course, sanitizing the or removing all the critical, or because privacy and all this data protection regulation and so on. Send the email.
Sensitive data,
Sorry.
or this is a WAG, or sensitive data.
Yes, for many clients, for example, they would like to get run the test on a production data. So what usually happens sometimes that we move the data from production to the pre-production, for example. And of course, but according to the GDPR and all this kind of law and regularity, so it's very important that we just cleaning all the sensitive data, like for example the name. It's not allowed to look at the people name of your clients, for example, even if it's very so yes, so and there is many tools and configuration that it can just sanitizer, or like cleaning the or removing the sensitive data before moving that to from production to pre-production.
But just a question, we can deploy to the same environment?
Yes, it's based on the.
Okay, okay.
Sorry.
We can deploy to the same environment.
Yes, it is based
before.
Okay.
Well,
Sorry,
yes.
carry on.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
I mean, it's based on your process. Of course, yes, you can build like incrementing, okay, so a new version, or maybe again, if you are just to provision a new environment, then you will deploy, from the beginning. But if the environment is provisioned already, again, it's based on the scenarios. There is many scenarios. For
Okay.
example, sometimes, how to say that? I mean, based on many scenarios, if your environment, you don't, sometimes you provision the environment. If you ask me, again, there is no all the time answer question or wrong or right. It's always depends on your scenarios and the use case for using this. So the main idea that you have the way, you have the case, or you have the scenario where you can provision the environment and then deploy from scratch. Other scenarios that no, you already have the environment and you just need to deploy an incremental version of your application. And you can, I will say, you will find that both scenarios are existing and working based on the use case for the project. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. It's very clear.
No
Thank you.
problem. Thank you. Yes. So again, so as you can see now, we understand the difference between CI tasks and CD tasks. So again, talking about the stage between build and deployment. So we have the code, we have the build, we have the unit test, packaging the application. As I explained, you don't build and deploy, you build and package. And the package is very, very important. And provision the environment and then deploying the application. But again, this is the old approach. Now, after we package the application, we have to store the package. This is why all this kind of repository that you found in the market now, Azure Artifacts, Artifactory, Nexus, all this kind of repository that manage your package management. And the same again, you just for other environment, you provision the environment and again deploy the application. You don't build and package again. You just pick the package from the storage and deploy it again. So it is build once, deploy multiple. And of course, run the test and so on. So let's look at the full stack running. So again, you start by, I'm talking about the CD, of course. You start by provisioning the environment. And then configure the environment. So the first is provision the environment. Now the environment is created, and then, okay, let me configure the environment. And then you start deploying the application to the environment, and then start configuring the application to the environment. Then creating the test data that you will use during the test. Let me give you, for example, if you automate how you can bring the production data to the pre-production, and maybe then you will use that again, everything can be automated. and then creating the test data, automated the test, and then maybe also run some manual test if needed. And then now it's ready, and then you will notify the approver, and then the approver can approve this stage, and then it will promote to the next stage. So this is the full, sorry. So promote to the environment. Again, the main idea is all about promoting the package from one environment to other. It is the same package. And again, if you just try to understand the same package, implementing that in reality, it's a big challenges. I can spend a very long time talking about the challenges, for example, about the master and branching that was involved with that. But anyway, so for example, if you here in the developer machine where you usually test your application, once you complete, then you promote the package to the next stage, which is the QA for feature test. So you are not here testing the integration test. It's just a feature test for this one. After that, you deploy, or promote, which is of course deploy, promote the application, the package to the next stage. And this is as an end-to-end functionality test. So here you are not testing the feature that is completed. You are testing the feature that is completed, and also other other previous feature, and the integration between the new feature and all other features. Once this complete, then you will promote that for something like a pre-production with a very close real data, very close to the real data. As I explained, sometimes we get the real data from production to pre-production, and then once this completed, then you promote that to the production. So the most important is to understand between sign in and sign off. What is that? So when you just moving from one environment to another, sorry, when you're moving just from one environment to another, the main idea here, this require to sign in from the QA team. And what does it mean? This means that accepting release to be deployed here, because maybe this environment is busy. Just imagine that this environment, and this is exactly what I'm saying, this environment already busy with other, and the team is working, and then you just deploy a new application, and you just like you just throw in everything on the environment for people that working on that. And this is why the QA, they just need to sign. But again, I'm not saying that they have to do that, because what I have learned for everyone is there is many scenarios, and we're using that with this scenario, we're using that. So, and this is again, by your knowledge is to understand all the scenarios and how you can employ different scenarios or different ways in different scenarios based on the use case. But I'm not saying this is the correct, because there is many ways you can deploy without sign-in, and there is many good scenarios you don't need to have even automated sign-in. So, but again, I'm talking about just to give you some of the, anyway. So the sign-in here means that the QA team is accepting the release to be deployed here. So this means they accept. Also, they accept that it has all the prerequisite definition of done for accepting this release. Because, for example, you just give them any build, which is the build when they start to even run the application doesn't run. So, and this is why sometimes they do what they call the sanity check, to check about that build before accepting that to deploy to that. This also they can be done because the automation, if they can trust the automation testing, for example, that has done before, moving to their environment and so on. It's all about what is the definition of done for the QA, so they can accept that. And also accept to start working, because maybe they are busy. By the way, I know that sometimes maybe you will say it's not our problem. Yes, no problem. But once you start the promoting, and it is waiting time because of them, then it's also part of the build verification time. This is why the build verification time is starting not after the sign-in, but starting from the initial request for sign-in. Anyway, so once they sign in, okay, and of course with the waiting time for the sign-in, and then the package will be deployed here. Once it is deployed, they start working, verifying if it is correctly and so on. The QA start working on that. And once they complete, and then they sign out, which means that we completed the work and it is ready for the next stage. Next stage is ready and secure. They can also, part of the pipeline automation is to scan the security for the next environment to make sure that the environment is secured. and then they will sign off. Once they sign off, this will promoting the package to the next stage. And again, the time between the initial request for the sign-in and the sign-off, all this time what we call the BVT, or build verification time. This is the time required uh, from the QA to verify that this build has bugs, or the quality of the build. And this is very important. If you attend my first session talking about measuring the DevOps, this is very important, a measurement of the DevOps adoption, which is the speed of build verification during the QA. Okay, end-to-end workflow. So what we are going to see in the demo, again, to make the demo simple, not very complicated. And by the way, some people, for example, I remember the demo last time, and people asked me that I put the password, plain password, in the variables in the Azure pipeline, and people asking about Key Vault, or of course we're using Key Vault, but the main idea, again, we try to keep the demo simple, because you can't put a demo which has everything as a production, as a reality or in production, because this will be very complicated. And usually in the demo, we target one or two things. We don't target 100 things in the same time. So again, always look at the demo, or what I'm doing. It's just part of the story, not all the story. Okay. So to keep the demo simple, so what I will do is, again, I will create the environment, the resource group in Azure, on Azure Cloud manually, and then I will create also a web app template, which is including a SQL Server and the firewall, Azure SQL Server as a PaaS, or platform as a service solution. And again, this could be part of the provisioning the environment as a part of the pipeline. But again, to keep this very, not very, but I will, to keep this simple, I didn't provision that as a part of the CI, part of the CD, sorry. Okay, then what will usually happen, or what I'm doing is, I will just change the code on my machine, and commit that code to the Azure pipeline. And this by changing the YAML file. To just to give you a quick overview, I think if you understand me now about talking about everything should be under source control, now you understand why we have the YAML file, right? Because again, once we have the instruction of the build as a code, as an instruction, using the YAML language, it means that I can keep that under the source control. I can understand who changed the task of this build, who update that when. So I can have a full audit about that with also the automation. So I will start by, again, updating the YAML file, which including, what I'm going to do, like what is the build will, the tasks that will be included in the build. Once this, I will run the continuous integration build. So the continuous integration build, again, the first step, if you remember the CI tasks, it will start compiling the application. It will start running the unit test. It will start minifying the application. It will start scanning the code to make sure that the code quality is very good, and all of the CI tasks and quality gates that I'm expecting. And then at the end, creating the package. Again, this is not the last task of the CI, but the last task is storing the package on the artifacts. And in our case, we will using Azure Artifacts by storing that package on that. And once that package is stored, then the next step is the continuous delivery. And again, because the last step in the continuous integration is to store the package, then the first step in the continuous delivery is to pick up the package, right? So now it will pick up the package and then download that on the build agent. So the package will be downloaded on the build agent. It's like the build agent now will just get the package, so it can push the package to the Azure resources on the cloud. Once it push the package, I will change the connection string to just, because this is a standard template, I just change the connection string to use the connection string in the package. But again, I could do everything automated, but again, to just keep things simple. And then once I do that, I can browse to the application. Okay, let's see the demo. So this is the application I will use during the demo. And as you can see, this application is an open source on GitHub called Parse Unlimited. And this is the source of the application. So you can see that what is the technology has been used. It's of course Linux and Mono, so you can deploy that on Linux machine. And then let's navigate to the demo generator where I generate the project that I will use. So I will use my Azure DevOps organization, choose the template, and here I will choose Parse Unlimited. And then here I will name the projects Parse Unlimited project, just put a name and create project. So this will create all the project, including the source code, the pipeline, the work items, all these kind of items. Now it's created successfully. Let's navigate that. So as we can see now, I have the Parse Unlimited, which include all the work items and everything. So if I navigate to the repo, we can see this is the project, which is developed in .NET 4.5. And here is the README file to read more about the project. And if I navigate now to, this is just to give you a quick overview about the website. It's just an MVC application.
Mohammed, can you hear me, Mohammed?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, this is Sam. Sorry, I was not able to talk. There was an issue with my audio device. When you were showing the different stages, I wanted to ask you a question. Is this what we call the release pipeline, or the pipeline is inside what happens in the stage itself? Because I read different articles, different books, and everybody defines a release pipeline differently.
Sorry.
Well, I will repeat the question.
Mm-hmm.
I said you showed different stages going from one stage to another.
Yes.
Is this the release pipeline, what we call the release pipeline, or the pipeline is what happens inside the stage itself? Because different articles, different books use the word pipeline really differently.
Yes. Okay. So in the release pipeline, again, it's based on your scenario. So the release pipeline could include different stages. In one release pipeline, it could have multiple stages. It could also including one stage. It's based on the scenario and the use case that you are working on.
Well, the scenario is that, as you indicated, going from dev environment to test environment to Q&A environment. So this is, for me, this is the release pipeline, according to me.
Yes, that's right. But in some cases,
Okay.
you may have one release, release pipeline, which including only deploy to one environment. I mean,
Okay.
at the end is you don't have one release pipeline. I will show you part of the real project which has many stages, and you will see that. But what I'm saying that you don't have one release pipeline per project. You have many release pipeline with all stages, and this is for scenario A. And you have another release pipeline with one or two stages only, and this is for another scenario, for the business case. And so it's like you have many release
But
pipe.
this will create a big mess. Why should we have different the release pipeline? Because everybody is working on the source code, and we can use features or anything else, and then use exactly the same pipeline, and then deploy whenever we would like to using this release pipeline.
And this
No?
is exactly what I'm saying, because we have different scenarios. The reality is completely different from the book, because when it's come to reality, you need to you will be like, no, we need another pipeline which include only this environment, because we have delivered that, and we have the customer, and we ask to it's always there is different scenario and different so we will end up with many releases, and Again, it's
Yeah, agree many releases. Yeah, I completely agree with you that we will have many releases. Okay, but the releases, they all are based on the same pipeline.
not.
Whether they go to the production until the production stage, or you define that they stop somewhere for
I will say
approval
I
to
would
be sent.
like to. I mean, what you are saying, say yes, that's great. I would like to have that. But to be honest, in reality, this is not, you know, I mean, it's very good, when you read the book and believe that this, because again,
Yes, yes. You can have different in the real world. There are okay, I understand, but the idea of having DevOps is exactly to avoid having a big mess of different. This is what I understand from DevOps is that to minimize as much as possible the mess and having one source of truth and one pipeline where we can experiment different scenarios.
okay, let me tell you something. To just let me. Sorry, what is your name?
Salam.
Salam. Hello, Salam. Okay, Salam.
Hello, sir. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. If the process doesn't support the exceptions, if your process is not flexible enough to support exceptions and different scenario, then probably this will not work in real. So yes, I would like to have that. Also, I can spend a very long time talking to you, but what I'm saying that again, just keep in mind that not all the knowledge with people is the same. So when you start, maybe you don't have all people on the same page because they are struggling to understand that. So if you say like, oh no, I need one, then you are only one person that understand. Again, what I'm trying to say, like, don't try to implement the book as it is because the reality it require more flexibility to adapt to the business and the constraint of the budget and the time and many and so on. I hope it's
Yeah. I'm not saying that I stick to the book. I have already practiced the DevOps. So one of the things that they were good that there are, well, it avoids to have different, let's say, different paths to reach deployment. This is what I was trying to say.
okay. Yes, what I'm trying to say at the end is as long as you have less releases pipeline, it means that you are more you are more mature team or mature DevOps practices. As more as you have more pipelines, do many things, it means that you are still in the beginning. But again, even this will be developed along the way. I'm not expecting the team they doing that, and everything will be perfect at the beginning because again, you need this flexibility. Okay?
No, yeah, of course, nothing is perfect.
Yeah. So okay,
Thank you.
no problem. It's my pleasure. So as you can see now, we navigate. So this is the project. I have here the unit test. So this is the continuous integration. So what I will just do here is just again, I will pause the continuous integration because I don't want to, when I commit change to trigger the build. And I will go to my Azure subscription and start to create a web app. So there is a template on the Azure Marketplace called Web App and SQL, which, as you expect, it will create a resource group including web app platform as a service and SQL Azure platform as a service as well. So I will create that and just name the app as I want. I name it web app SQL RUD1, my name. And then here just create the database and name the database. Of course, the SQL server and the SQL database. And here I will name the SQL server. And here also I will put the server admin login and password, confirm the password. As you can see here also, this is very important, allow Azure services to access server. This will open a firewall rule so the web app can access the SQL, because if I didn't let that, this will not, it will not give an option to the web app to connect to the SQL. Anyway, so just create that and just give some times and this now created. If I just navigate to my resource group, we can see that I have now the new resource group. It includes the SQL database, the SQL server, and the web app and application inside. We will not cover this part of the application inside, but again, this is the web app. And if I navigate here for, let's go for the database. This is the web app. And just go for the configuration. And here in the configuration, we can see that the default connection. So this is including all the variables that I created during the creation of the template. So what I just need is to change this default connection, the connection string name. Anyway, now as you can see, now I have the environment created, provisioned. Then now I will create a YAML file. And once I create a YAML, just remember here is the classic editor. The classic editor, which is the UI, using the previous one. But here I will use the YAML, which means that the first is to choose where I want to keep that. And there is many templates, so I chose the ASP.NET. The first one is I need to change the Windows image. So because this is Visual 2017, so I need to get this image. So I change that in the YAML file. And now it's ready. And just save that. Again, it's manual now. It's not a continuous integration. And then just edit again. And then run the build. So this will, again, compile the application and package the application and so on and do all this part. So if we go for, we can see here how many stages I have. And we can see here, this is the job from inside and outside. So this is a new Git package, restoring the package, building the application. Now it will start, run the unit test. We can also see the result of the test here, as you can see. 100% test passed. Of course, I can open this link to look at the test result. I can also navigate to the test result from the build at the top. Okay, so now I run one stage in the build with the continuous integration. So let's have another stage within the pipeline, the release pipeline. And this is why it will not be a release pipeline in this case. It will be a build and release pipeline. Okay, so the main idea here, I just need to have another stage in the same file. So what I will do is I just copy this stage. So as you can see here, I have the stage called build. So it was only single stage, but now I will create another stage. So as you can see here, I want to put everything in this stage. So when I collapse, when I have all of that, it will. So as you can see, I just have two indent with space. And then if I close now this stage, we can see.
Bob.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, so when I close that, we can see that all that, this is very important. So when I close the stage, we have all the tasks inside that stage. Once I have a stage, then I will copy that stage and paste it. And remember to remove all the spaces. Now I have another stage, and I will name my stage to be deploy. And again, I don't need all the all the tasks in the deploy. So I will just remove all of them, but I needed the steps, but I will put new steps or new tasks for the deployment. So here I will just, the first step is just to give authorize my Azure pipeline so it can deploy the application to my Azure subscription. Otherwise, it will not have the permission. And here I will just give the drop location. So as you can see now, this is the task for the drop location, and I need to have two indent so it can be within the step. And I need also to add a step in the build. The first build is just to build the application and create the package, but it doesn't store the package. So what I will do is add another step in the build to store the package in Azure Artifacts. So as you can see, this is the task which is publish artifact. So now the continuous integration or the build will publish the stage of the build. It will publish the artifact. And I will add another step in the deployment to pick up the artifacts or the package. So as you can see, now I have, so the last step in the build is to store the package, and the first step in the deployment is to pick up the package. So now I have add that. So if I close the stage build, if I close the stage deployment, as you can see now, because it's very important, it's a tricky part, this part. So now I have two stages in this build. And let's now open the build and trigger. Just it need authorization. This happened for the first time. Just authorize resources. Again, this is for authenticate the pipeline to the Azure. And then just run the pipeline. So as you can see now we have two stages, the build and deploy. And the build will build the application, create the package and store the package. And then the deploy will deploy the application. So the build will do the same as before, except one task more, which is publish the artifact on the storage. Now run the unit test again. And now the deploy will start. Download the package and then start deploy the package. So now the deployment complete and deploys the application to Azure. So I will just go again, I will copy the name of the connection string from the app config. So as you can see, the connection string here called default connection string. And I will navigate to my app services configuration settings to change the connection string. So instead of default connection, it will be default connection string. Now let's save that. Now my application is ready, and if I just browse the application, then I can navigate to the application, which is loading all the web app and the database and everything. So just to give you some tips, sometimes because this pipeline is Azure pipeline, the hosted, Microsoft hosted agent, which means that I don't have a remote access to that machine. And in some cases, I couldn't troubleshooting. Like, for example, if I have the build on my machine, I can troubleshooting like where is the file, why it's not built. So just here, a tips. This is, I used this to display what I can exist in the Azure pipeline as a hosted agent, so I can see, why I couldn't find my package. Because while I create this demo, of course, there is many errors. Some of them, for example, I couldn't find the package. Anyway, so you can use that, and I use here a command line to echo that because this is a bash, because I run that on an Ubuntu. Sorry, it's not Ubuntu, it's Windows, right? Yes, the build is Windows, but the Azure will be on. Yes. Anyway, so here I will just put this task here. So when I run, I will show you now. When it's come to the CM, this, you can see that it can show me what is the files in the Azure Pipeline hosted agent, Microsoft hosted agent, so I can troubleshooting. Here also some of the using the echo command that I used, and also some of the bash, that how to concatenating and all of that. That's it. Get back to the. I want also to show you some of the reality. This, for example, a real project where you can see like we have like 13 or even more stages, and the promotion here from one stage to another, and we can also have dependencies. Some of the stages, by the way, can be like in parallel stages, and some of them is dependent on the previous stages. So yes, this is one of the stages. For example, we have the UAT, user acceptance test. We have also OAT, or operation acceptance test. We have the testing, we have the dev, and so on. That's it. Upcoming session alert. So there is a repeated session for people that they couldn't join the first session. This will be in 30 May for the Kubernetes with Azure Pipeline, also continuous integration deployment. It is repeated one. So if you already attend this session before, it will be the same. Also, there is another session which is the DevOps open source. And don't forget the DevOps vision on GitHub, where we can build this community, and the easy app. Your support is really appreciated. And question and answer. Has anybody any question? Any question?
Yes, Mohammed, I have just one question.
Sure, Ajay.
So in the last slide, you show a pipeline in the reality.
Yeah.
With more than 30 stages.
Yeah.
And we can see that they will make more than 50 minutes to run.
Yes, that's
so
right.
what is the benefits of do many stages? Why we don't split them to more small pipeline?
Yeah.
And run it from end to end. Yeah,
Yes,
this is
okay.
my question.
This is exactly what I'm saying. With the reality, you need to be very flexible, because the business case and scenarios, we are not implementing all the best practice all the time. And just to give you an idea, this project has 300 developers, and it's only centralized the DevOps engine. We divided the DevOps into teams, one with provisioning the environment and one for deploying the application. And so, yes, it's difficult to talk about what's happening, but at the end, yes, what I'm saying, there is always a challenge. When it's come to reality, don't expect that you will see best practices. I will say, to be honest,
we must be agile.
Yes, when it comes to reality, you will see a huge implementation, but again, the best practice, the perfection is something we all seek to have, but it is something really difficult to have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other question?
I want to ask about, in reality, you said that in project we have like 300 developers, right?
Yeah.
So what about the DevOps one? What is the number of DevOps here? Is there only one person, one DevOps engineer for this, or there is multiple of engineer?
Ibrahim Mustafa. Hello, Ibrahim. It's good to
Hello,
say your
Mohammed.
name. And why? Okay, may I ask you to repeat your question again?
My question is, in real life projects, we have like 300 developers. What about the DevOps? Is it a team or many DevOps or just one engineer?
No, no, no. We are a very big team. And we are two
One
teams.
DevOps.
We are two teams, and this is exactly what I'm saying. Just remember, it's very sensitive to talk about the real projects. But again, I will talk to you
Yes.
ju just to give you an overview. Okay? I mean, I can't go
Oh,
deep, but what I'm saying that we are two teams. One team is working for the deployment, and one team for working or maintaining the environments. And we use the service management to manage the requests between the two teams. So every team is like around 10 to 15 DevOps engineer, and
yes.
even the two teams is located in two different location. I mean, physically, like some teams in UK, some teams in outside. So
Yes. Yes.
what I'm saying at the end is, again, it is not all the time. In with every project, there is some circumstances, some conditions, and this is why you just need to be more flexible with working with reality. Uh, yes, you understand the best practices. By the way, this is why I really like the community because this is the best place to implement the best practices.
Yes. Yes.
You know
Yes.
why? Because you can the, this is why when you look at, for example, an open source project, you will find it's perfect. You know why? Because if it is not perfect, no one will do it because it's very open. But when it's come to business, you have deadline, you have constraint, you have business, you have many things.
Many variables.
Yeah,
Yes. Many
so again,
variables.
no one, if you stay to say the best practices, the team is not ready. The budget is not, the customer, the client, the project. There is many things. So what you're doing is all at the time is to making trade-off and try to do as much as possible and improve that. So and this is the real experience, is to understand how to deal with that in the big project.
Yes.
And again,
Yes.
with other project, this will not be exist, and there will be another challenges. I mean,
Yes.
the good part about working as a consultant that you will go for one customer, and then you will find that this customer is really implemented very good practices in one area, but in other area they don't. And again, we even try to implement that, we help them, but there is many constraints sometimes you couldn't. As I explained before in my one of my session, I went to one of the client or the project, and I look at the backlog, and the time for each backlog item is delivered within 2 months or 3 months. So the first recommendation, no, you need to break down no, 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 we can't do that. Okay, but if you can't do that, then you will not achieve the agile, because if you can't deliver in days in production something useful to your end user in production, then this will not be, you will never reach the agile. And again, even I'm not saying that you need to do that immediately, but you need to have that vision so you can implement that in the future. Because if you can see the future, like this is what I want to achieve, and then this will, you will reach that in one day, or but you put the target and you try to reach that. But again, with this project, for example, they couldn't, because they say it's impossible to have that. This is why, what I'm saying all the time, agile is not, it's very good, but again, it just sometimes the trend become more more, like more trendy than the reality. So you will find
Yes.
some using agile, but in reality they are not. Yes, but at the end is what I'm saying is, with every project there is some challenges, there is some good practices, and you try again to improving the best practices, improving the challenging part, and work on that and provide value. That's it. But
Yes. Yes.
at the end, yes, I think one of the great, like thing I really like about consultant is that, working with different customer clients and so on. So I have seen many best practices really implemented, but there is also all the time there is many challenges. And with every place there is many good part, and also there is, many parts which really require a lot of practices.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
One last request, Muhammad.
Sure.
Could after the session, could I send you a request to because I want to ask you something in private? Could we have, or you don't have time?
Okay, sure. To be honest, usually I will
Just
say all the
10 minutes.
time, try to change your question to you know I really like to help many people, and if you can change your question from private to be public and think how you can help others by this. I really like community, but again, it doesn't mean that I don't answer any private. It's based on the question and based on, like if something I can just direct like give a quick answer, I will reply.
Yes.
If it's something like, sometimes people asking me very long, like, so I will not be able to reply. But yes, you
It
sure.
will be quick. It will be quick, I'm sure.
Yeah, great. Any other question?
Okay, thank you.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. I have a questions.
Yes, your name, please.
Uh, yeah, my name is Nayan. I'm from India, and first of all, I'd like to thank you for sharing your wonderful time and teach us about the DevOps. So I really appreciate and thank you very much for
Thank you.
providing. I always join your sessions, and this is my second sessions with you. I'm really happy about that.
Thank you. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah. Yeah, thanks. My question is regarding the two things. One is the using the classic YAML editor, and another is for the classic editors, not using YAML editor.
Yeah.
So in real-time cases, you shared that in production environment there are a lot of stages, it's like 100 stages that you shown in presentation. So I just wondering for real-time cases, what will be the best approach to use YAML editor or classic editor? I mean the classic editor has own, so everyone has their own advantages. Like the YAML editor, you can have a build and release pipeline every in a single piece of code, and you can maintain it. You can have a version control about it. You can use the GitHub to make a version control. But if you use the classic visual editor, I'm not sure it doesn't have any version control functionality, so that it is good to understand who have make the changes, who has not make the changes. So I understand everyone has their own benefit, but for production cases, what will be your recommendation to use YAML editor, not use the classic, or use classic, not ML1? So what should the factor should be considered? So that's the first question, and I know you will give a great answers about that. It will be very
Thank
clearful
you.
to all of you. And I mean, so my second question, Mohammed, if it is possible, I saw one blog that Microsoft is tightening partnership with HashiCorp Terraform,
Hmm.
and I worked on Terraform project for the Oracle Cloud, and it is really cool. And it doesn't matter what cloud providers you are, so you can work AWS, Azure, and Oracle, blah blah blah, other provider.
Yeah.
So if you have any time, so in going forward, not so urgent, can you have any presentations that it could at least give some deep dive to using Azure on the Terraform, using Azure DevOps? So that is my wish list,
Thank you.
and that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you. No problem. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much. Before answering your question, because I usually forgot this part, I want to send the the session survey, because this is very important for me to understand, how can I improve. Um, so I will send in the chat. So now I send the survey. So please, I would really appreciate for everyone to fill the survey. Okay, let's get back to the question. Okay, thank you so much for the question. For the Terraform, yes, I even was preparing a poll to ask people, what could be the next session is either Terraform with Azure or Ansible or the Azure DevOps exam tips and the tricks. And even I will raise this poll on LinkedIn to get more feedback about which one. So please, I would like that. So yes, my plan is to prepare that. Um, to your first question about YAML or the UI. First, the classic UI, it has version, but it is not under version control. For example, if you go for the Azure pipeline itself, you go for the build definition and you can see the changes, but it is not under source control. It is just the definition history on Azure pipeline. And again, the main idea here, for me, I will say you should stop using the classic. Again, for me, I mean, I have concern about the best practices to use this or this, but again, in general, because again, the best practices all the time is evolved. But what I'm saying is, just a second. What I'm saying is, the classic UI is it is version, but it is on the pipeline, not on source control. But for me, I would like that everything under source control, uh, you know, is just again treating everything the same, treating your configuration, treating your pipeline, treating your documentation, treating your source code, treating so everything in one place, which is the source code or the source control. So this is really a great idea. And of course, I will say this is this is the best. So for classic, I will say you should not use it anymore.
Okay, so Mohammed, so for production graded users, it is better to use the YAML because it's a source control. So it is identify who make the changes and what has been added, what has been so as the part of the version control provides. So I appreciate, yeah, it's a good because if you have a as you shown that in presentation, you have a long multi stages. So if you use somebody use the UI, so it is quite difficult to maintain because if it's a very 2 or 3 stages, it is quite difficult to it is easy to maintain. But if it's a long production graded, then it is quite difficult to maintain. So then that cases the YAML is the best approach to use.
Yes,
Yeah.
but again, even you can build multi-stages with the UI and doing the same. The main idea is that with I would like to treat again, everything is like source control. You change the source control. Once you complete that in the source control, you run the automation. And for example, you want to provision the environment. Then you change that in the source control. You run the automation. Then it update your environment or provision a new environment. So, if you understand the mindset, you would like to treat everything like this. Like, everything is just a configuration as code. It's either an infrastructure, it's either environment, it's desired state, documentation. I talk about documentation as code using the markdown.
Yeah.
You know, you put all your markdown as a part of your source code and then publish this markdown as a website. For example, as Microsoft doing that with all Microsoft documents, it's just a markdown under GitHub and they publish that on a web page. So, and this publish will be using the pipeline. So again, you wanted to treat everything as source control, run the pipeline, and then provision or create, So it's really, very good to have that.
Yes, and another thing, Mom, sorry, I have a lot bit questions. So I just wondering, if we use YAML, then it need additional training and the syntax and the indentation stuffs. But I was wondering, how will the release gate functionalities? Because in UI it's very quite easy to use the release gates. Just we have check the checkbox, provide the time, and provide some the fill the form, and it started working automatically. So the difference between the UI like Linux and Windows, Linux doesn't have any UI alert days, so everything has to be right in the control on the command. and Windows has a UI. So for release gates and other functionalities, so then that should be part of the YAML. So that I think that needs additional training to how to use the release gates and other stuff to include in the YAML.
But you know that you saw that when I add the tasks, there is UI as well, which when you click the UI, add the task, it adds a code for the task.
Yes.
So this part also, yes. And by the way, you saw that I put all the tasks inside the YAML, inside. But this is, I mean, there is other ways. And for example, if I have like 20 stages, do you think like I will put all the stages and repeat the same steps? Like if I have 5 stages, which is the same steps, do you think like I will copy and paste all the steps? So we're using something called YAML template, which means that instead of putting the tasks in the YAML as you saw, no, I will just create a YAML template in the source control, and in the stage I will just refer to this template, so I can use this template multiple times. So yes, definitely you will just need sometimes to get more familiar with the YAML and how to use it.
Yes.
And this is, by the way, this is why my open source project is learn by doing. You know, if you want to learn something, then the best option is to doing it. You know, so you can you can work with different things and so on.
Right. Thanks,
No
Mama.
problem.
Thanks.
It's my pleasure. Okay, thank you so much for everyone joining, and I'm really looking for the feedback. Please don't forget to fill the feedback and the survey, and looking forward.
Thank you, Muhammad, very much. Thank you.
No problem, Mustafa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed.
Thank you. And looking forward to seeing you next time, and wish you a great day.
Okay. Thanks, Mama.
Muhammad,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks.
Great day
You too.
Thank you.
for you and everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.